Financial Survival Network, helping you survive and thrive in the new economy. Go to CarrieLutz.com and sign up for 30 free micro trainings on financial survival.
$14.90 WGCH. This is Carrie Lutz. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. If you thought me and my guests are a little off the wall, the FBI has now classified us as extremists because we believe in a return to the gold standard. And my favorite extremist is on with us now, Ranting Andy Hoffman. Andy, how does it feel to be labeled an extremist who might become violent at any moment?
Yeah, well, I guess my new name will be Off the Wall, Andy, because I was just talking to someone the other day, and I said, I wonder how high up on their list I am. Am I in the top 1,000? I got to think I'm in the top 1,000, but hopefully not much higher.
Yeah, well, as long as there's 999 people that they have to find before they get you, you'll probably have some ample warning. I think it's when you're in the top 100 that, that they're just watching you all the time and know exactly where you are. But where do they get off with that? I mean, what is this about? Is this preparation for the inevitable collapse and then round up the troublemakers and we just have totalitarian rule?
Yes, it's called propaganda. They have, there's a reason we see literally a headline every single day mentioning something about Iran. Today, there's the Navy says that they are preparing suicide explosive boats ready to attack us. Then there was some kind of bomb at some embassy of Israel and India, so they're immediately blaming Iran. I mean, it's the same thing with this. They want to plant the seed that anything that has to do with gold is bad, because right now the only people that realize this are people who own gold and have to deal with the manipulation. But they want the public to start thinking gold is bad as well.
Yeah, well, it's really not going to work, though. I mean, because what they're not thinking about, or what they've thought about, and there's nothing they can do, is complete loss of faith, of confidence in government. You see it more and more every day. You see it every statistic that they release, less and less people believe it. So they can keep the game going in their heads, but they're really not going to change the reality.
Yeah, and more importantly, when the dollar crashes, no one's going to care what the government says. They're going to want gold, because that's what people are doing all over the world. Read the articles in my piece today that's coming out. There's an article about in Vietnam how they're buying more than any country in the world because they're high inflation. In India, look at the 60 Minutes piece last night about the country buying gold, and there's another piece about China. People don't really care what the government says about these kind of things when they see their purchasing power being lost.
Right. Where do we subscribe? How can you subscribe to your newsletter and Miles Franklin's newsletter?
Just go to milesfranklin.com. On the front page, there'll be a box. Just go to your email.
Yeah, I thought we had a link to it, but I can't find it, but I'll make sure it goes back up there. So we're going to handle some questions that you've had out there about buying gold, about selling gold, and all that. But first, you had an interesting email from a member of the service. Could you just share that?
Yeah, it was a soldier in Afghanistan asking about precious metals and how you might buy them. And I can't speak for what everything that's going on this person's head. But I think it's we know that that Ron Paul's campaign gets more contributions from soldiers than any other campaign. In fact, all the other ones combined. And obviously, there's soldiers out there who are reading the kind of things that we talk about, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, hopefully those guys, when push comes to shove, and they turn the army upon the country to maintain order, in quotes, hopefully guys like him will turn their backs on the orders when they're given. So a couple of questions here. I've got a guy, Tom from Tucson. He asks if he should use his silver, which he's accumulated over the years. It's appreciated greatly, to pay down his mortgage. And I mean, I'm sure we both have the same reaction to that, but just say what you think, Ed.
Yeah, and in this case, I'm not sure if we do, because this is, I mean, people ask all the time, when should I sell my silver or gold? And the answer to that is, for the most part, it's never. It's money. You sell it when you need to buy something. Otherwise, you keep it as savings because it keeps its value over time, particularly the time that's be coming in the next few years. But, questions about debt are very sketchy because there's a lot of, the mainstream thought about inflation as well. If you have hyperinflation, then you want to have as much debt as possible because it'll get wiped away. And, you want to use any dollars you have now to buy precious metals and other things of value with. But, we don't know when hyperinflation will hit. And if in your particular case, you don't have the money to pay your mortgage and you take out debt, for instance, like refinance your house, you could have issues. What if there's a short-term drop in gold and you lose your job and you need to pay things down? So it's a very tricky question. The most important thing, of course, is will you be planning to move? Because if you were planning to move anytime in the next few years and you pay it off and then your house plummets in value and you need money to pay for things, then, it's just a very tricky question. For each person, it's different. Look, the fact is, a house is a real item of value. Okay, yes, it can go up and down in value, but it still is something of value. And having a house with no mortgage is certainly something that could be of value to you in the future. So I can't speak for this person, his specific situation, but it is something that has to be carefully thought about.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. And one measure of home prices that I've liked is homes should sell for approximately 3 times the average annual income in that area. So using that, you can figure out if your home is overvalued or undervalued. Many places have gone back down to that level now that hadn't been seen in years. And the other thing is, if you can't afford to pay your mortgage and your house isn't saleable, and you've got silver over and above what would be considered a core holding, might be a good idea. But like you said, it's a very individual question of how much metals you should be holding. And you don't want to be going bankrupt today so that one day when the dollar collapses, you'll be a wealthy person. That's kind of defeating the purpose. So you need to find a balance. And, we could help provide additional questions and factors to be considered, but in the end, it is a personal decision.
Yeah, and that said, I do believe average real estate prices will fall for years to come. And I'm talking about real terms. Yes, you could have hyperinflation and everything will go up in nominal price, but I believe in real terms, you're going to see real estate fall for some time to come. It was just way, way overbuilt. There's way too much debt involved. So unless you think you're going to be staying in the house for a long time, it's be very careful with real estate.
Yeah, and you always have to remember that the way strategic defaults work in places like New York and New Jersey, the East Coast, it's taking them 3 to 5 years to foreclose and eventually seize the home and put people out. So, there's a lot of factors, and really, if you're on the edge, you need to talk to an attorney and a financial advisor, keeping in mind your preference that you want to be holding some metals no matter what happens, paying it off or not. And we've got Winifred in Pittsburgh, PA, and she's really concerned about a bank holiday. And in case you don't know what a bank holiday is, that's the holiday that the bank gets where they don't have to pay you your money. It's not the holiday that you get where you don't pay them what you owe. And just as an aside, Andy, I don't know if I told you this, I went to Citibank. I used to be able to pull out $2,000-$3,000 in a day when I needed it from the ATM without even thinking about it. I go there, and there's one near my office in Connecticut. I go in there, and it only let me take $1,000. I figured, well, that's because I'm in Connecticut, not New York, where my branch is. So I go to New York, and sure enough, they won't let me take out $2,000. And I call them up and I said, what's with this? I used to be able to take out, $2,000-3,000 in a day when I needed to. And they said, well, it's because of fraud. Now you can only take out 1,000. If you need more than that, you have to go to the branch and write a check or call us and we can give you a temporary increase in the amount that you can withdraw from the bank. And that just sung out. It was a red flag to me. Bank holiday, they're getting ready. What's your thoughts on it?
Okay, well, a couple of thoughts, as I always have, particularly about Citigroup, as I worked for them for 7 years as an analyst for Solomon Smith Barney, and for a time I was forced to have all my accounts there, all my bank accounts, my securities accounts, my pension, some of which is still there because I can't take it out till I'm 59 or something.
Captive.
Yeah, and also I was getting paid bonuses in Citigroup stock.
Lucky you.
Back. Well, I actually was lucky. I left the firm in 2005 and sold it the day I left. So, but the fact is, I'm very, very intimate with their policies. I remember in 2008 when the markets were falling apart and we had all of our Lehman Brothers and all that kind of stuff. Citigroup and several other banks had restrictions of withdrawals, not just from ATMs, but from the bank as a whole, daily withdrawals. And if it got any worse, they would have, there could have been a bank run and closed off all these things, which is the definition of a bank holiday. And again, when I hear the term bank holiday, I mean, it can be, you can think of it as, yes, they just close the doors for a couple of weeks until the government, figures things out. But what it really is a microcosm of financial martial law. They can do whatever they want in that time. They could expropriate your accounts. They can place all kinds of liquidity restrictions, add fees, make it hard to transfer it, use it. And, that's why I've taken literally, I shouldn't say literally every penny out of the system. I keep $1,000 at the local bank if in case I have to do some kind of minor transaction. But everything else is out of the banking system. We've seen it fail 3 years ago, and we're seeing it fail again. And I just don't see why anyone would want to keep significant amounts of money in banks.
Yeah, they're basically insolvent, dead men walking. Nothing's going to change that. That's why they should have been shut down in 2008 and the depositors protected and everybody else cleaned out. And we wouldn't be in this situation now had they done it. But I kind of agree with you. And if you got to keep some money in the bank, fine. Keep some cash at home because there could be a time where it's difficult, if not impossible. They did it in Argentina. You saw they limited the amount you could withdraw to a few $100 a day, and you couldn't take your money out. And I think that's a real possibility. Not saying it's going to happen today or tomorrow, but before this thing is over, people are going to wish they'd pulled their money out. There's no question. Yeah,
and I agree with everything except for the part about if they had just shut the banks in 2008, we wouldn't be in this position. I think we would have been in this position in 2008 if they did that. It's just that they've been kicking the can down the road. They made a situation which was already catastrophic, just that much more catastrophic when it happens this time.
Yep. And this one's from a friend of mine, Jeffrey of Newton, Mass. Wants to know the best form of gold and silver to buy. He had an occasion to buy 1 ounce silver bars, not rounds, for a much smaller premium than the rounds. And what's your thought on this, Andy? What's the best form of holding metals?
Right. Well, as to his statement about the 1 ounce bars trading at lesser premiums, it really, that's kind of a vague statement because it really depends which rounds he's talking about. The bars versus are certainly going to trade at a big discount to silver eagle rounds, but to generic silver rounds, they'll probably trade about the same. It really depends because there's so many different kind of silver coins. As opposed to gold, where there's really only a handful of, most of them are sovereigns. Now, does it matter, what kind should you buy? Well, look, it comes down to liquidity. It has nothing to do with bars versus coins. It has to do with liquidity. 1 ounce coins are less liquid than half ounce coins, which are less liquid than 10th ounce coins. So you're going to pay big premiums for those very small fractional amounts. A 1/10 ounce gold coin right now might trade at a 25% premium to the 1 ounce coin. It's certainly more liquid. You can use it for more transactions, but you're paying for that. So it really depends on how much you're planning to be holding in coins, how much of it you plan on just having it sitting in your vault forever and how much you think might be a contingency for barter. And then, of course, when it comes to silver, you have that issue of generic coins versus sovereign coins. There's a lot more comfort with the sovereign coins, like the gold eagles and the maples, because they're more well known. So people are willing to pay premiums for them. Although I believe in time, some of the generics are going to be worth just as much once people start to really analyze silver.
Yeah, my feeling is you need some coins, but you buy the most bullion that you can get for the dollar, and allocate it along from most liquid to least liquid, and pretty much set up a plan according to that. Because if we're buying bread for silver because there's no money around, then that silver pre-1965 dime, having a bunch of them could be a good idea. Personally, I'm not sure it's going to come down to that. I think there's a lot more chapters in this play to run before we get there, but having a variety probably makes good sense, right?
Yeah, and I mean, if you want a general answer to this, I'd say if you hold most of your coin value in 1 ounce coins, be it gold or silver, you're fine. Yeah, it's nice to have a little bit, maybe a little junk silver, maybe some 1/4 ounce gold coins. But for the most part, 1 ounce coins is going to be sufficient for just about anything you need to do.
Yeah, I kind of agree there. I think you're totally right. Now we got Myron from Bakersfield, California, and he says this: since we're all effed anyway, does it matter whether I bother buying any gold or silver? Shouldn't I just work on spending all my money now and taking out as much debt as I can? I mean, that's kind of the really nihilistic approach to the financial mess that we're in now, isn't it?
Yeah, well, those two questions are kind of contradictory. If you believe this, if he's saying we're going to have hyperinflation, because I'm not sure what EFT is referring to, is it everything goes to zero, or do we have Weimar Germany? Now, if you believe this is hyperinflation, so he's saying, why would I buy gold and silver? Well, you buy gold and silver so that you live through hyperinflation. Shouldn't I just spend my money? Well, spend it on what? I mean, look, if you believe that there's going to be a hyperinflation or just accelerated inflation, that's what you should be saving in. Gold is not an investment; it's just money. Now, EFT could mean a lot of things. It could mean the military comes and arrests everyone because the NDAA. Look, I mean, all you could do is protect yourself with the best possible information you have. And right now, whether we have market implosions or hyperinflations, you're going to see gold and silver outperform, as they always have throughout history.
Yeah, and it's important, even if the whole system collapses, meaning that the quantity of money in circulation, just like 1929 style deflationary depression occurs, gold and silver proven, even in deflationary depressions, their real purchasing power goes up. No question about it, undisputable, and every study has shown it. So regardless whether we're deflationary or inflationary, if you're worried about surviving it, then metals are the place to be. And we got Sarah here, and we've talked about this, and I'll just throw it out there. Gun Barrel City, Texas. How real a threat is gold confiscation, and what can I do to stop them? And in a place like Gun Barrel City, they probably could do a lot. Talk about extremists, huh?
Yeah, I mean, the confiscation, I mean, I can only say it so many times. Look, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. I expect bad things to happen. Confiscation of gold is really not one of the things I worry about, and I worry about a lot of things, and that's because, again, in 1933, we were on a gold standard. There was a actual reason to do it. It was an illegal reason. It was not a good reason. But the fact was, you could justify even discussing some of these things. There was no global market for gold. It was all here. And we had all the gold in the world, or most of it.
Yeah.
And, now, I mean, it's laughable at how much. I mean, we know that the Treasury's probably sold all of its gold. And even if they have every ounce of the 8,000 tons, it's not worth that much. And to think that the American public has enough gold for it to matter, I mean, I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I believe that no more than 1% or 2% of the gold in the world is sitting in the hands of North American retail public. So there's no real purpose for it. And then, of course, they have to get it. Now, in 1933, everyone makes a big deal out of it, but they didn't have people coming into the treasury with gold. The only gold they got, and I heard it was 80 tons or something. Yeah. It was just gold that they confiscated from safe deposit box, which comes back to the whole bank thing. Don't put anything in banks. The bank is literally like giving the government your money or your gold or anything that you put in there. So the point is, I don't see any purpose of it. Sure, they can do all kinds of things. They can say, yeah, we're going to make it illegal to use or to sell. But if they do, you can bet that it's worth an incredible amount of money. There'll probably be a black market for it, and you may need it to live. So who cares if they say you can't use it? If the dollar is worth nothing and the gold is worth something, what choice are you going to make?
Obviously, yeah. I mean, worrying about confiscation, it's just pointless. But as Peter Schiff said, the government might need the gold just to pay the military and the cops to keep them on the job. So it becomes an option, but I don't see it.
But it's not that much. That's the whole point. Even if they took it all, even if they had 8,135 tons in the treasury and it's all there, and they say this is the only way we could pay for things, it's not that much money.
No.
It's worth like $30 billion or something. Or I gotta do the number in my head. What it is? It's not that much money.
It's not. It's relatively little. It was $30 million a ton or something like that. So it's not a lot. Yeah, totally agree. And Moshe of Brooklyn asks, when should I think about selling my metals? I've done very well, but I'm nervous that gold and silver are bubbles that have popped. I mean,
to say they've popped, I mean, gold is about 5% from its all-time high, and it's up 11% this year, and it's been up for the 11 years prior. So I'm not sure how that's considered a pop. Now, silver was it reached $50 earlier last year. I mean, it was quite obvious that it was taken down from there by the government. I mean, that couldn't have been more choreographed. But the fact is, even here at $34 an ounce, I mean, the bull market started at $4 an ounce. It's gone up more than any other asset, including gold, in the past 11 years. So I'm not sure what would be characterized as a bubble that's popping. Now, as for when should I sell it, again, it's not an investment. If there's one thing I can say to people and to try to get into their heads, is that gold and silver are not an investment. The investment is the paper currencies. Mm-hmm. They are the things that are at risk. They are going to be overprinted 10 times over, 100 times over, maybe 1,000,000 times over, and they continue to lose their value. Gold and silver do not lose their value. They are just money.
Yep, they're money, and they're also an insurance policy against the very policies that we're seeing taken, and the threat that you're facing now to your wealth, to your whole financial security. So, people have to understand that. Yeah,
the answer to the question is you never sell it unless you need to buy something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's your bank account. Watch the piece. Go to the internet and Google the 60 Minutes piece that they did about Indian gold last night, and how the people in India think of gold as savings, because that's what it is. It's not your bank account at Citigroup, per what we talked about 15 minutes ago. Gold is your savings account.
Right. And the interesting thing, Indians have always made their jewelry out of 22 karat gold, because 24 is a little too soft and malleable. Yep. And that's the whole thing with the dowry. I don't remember how many ounces of gold the bride's parents or family was expected to give to the groom, but they actually cut it recently because it was just getting out of hand. Most people couldn't afford to do it. And I've seen that Indian gold jewelry, and it's not, it gets lumped into jewelry, worldwide jewelry demand, but it's not. It's really investment.
No, and I've bought jewelry in the last few years, and when I do, I always buy 22 karat. You go on eBay and you find it, and a lot of it is coming from that part of the world, because yes, they view it as they view their 22 karat jewelry, which is almost pure, as money. Mm-hmm. And I agree with that completely.
Yep. And finally, I saved the best question for last. Grace of Pueblo, Colorado, a neighbor of yours. I haven't started buying gold and silver yet and am very nervous that it's too late. Have I missed the big move?
No, the big move. We haven't even started the big move. To me, I would say we're in, inning 2 or 3 out of what could be an extra inning game. And more importantly, I don't believe that it's not gold that's in a bull market. It's the paper that's in a bear market. This is not going to end like in 1980 where it goes up and then it plummets. It's going to end with a gold standard this time around, with the collapse of the paper system. I don't think more than 1% of the public in this country owns gold, and I don't think more than even 10% in Canada, where gold is a way of life, own any kind of precious metals. So I think we're just starting with the bull market. When you start to see commercials for people trying to sell you gold, not trying to buy your gold, maybe you'll start to realize that some people are actually looking at it. Because I don't even think we're close. I don't even think, until we get over $2,000 an ounce, I don't even think the media is going to even give it a second of thought.
Yeah, well, you just have to use my old CNBC indicator, sit in front of the tube for 15 minutes and see how many times gold and silver prices pop up as compared to oil and the dollar and the Dow. And it's like, you hardly see it. When it was really moving in the summer, man, it was popping up much more frequently, but still not as frequently as the major indicators. And yeah.
Think of it in terms of, not in terms of excitement, because the internet bubble was based on greed. Okay. This is going to be based on fear. So when your neighbors start talking about gold, yeah, I mean, a few of them will be happy about it, but for the most part, they'll be concerned and thinking about, how do I do this? When your neighbors, not just Ranting Andy and Kerry Lutz are talking about it, then you know that it may be slowing down its rise. But I mean, I can almost guarantee that Grace, that you don't know anyone that talks about gold right now.
Oh, I went out to dinner with a couple of friends, really intelligent people, graduated from Ivy League schools, incredibly successful. And saying, I'm telling him, haven't seen him in a while. So I got this radio show. We're talking about this and the ultimate collapse of the American economic system and the world economic system, for that matter. And she said, "But I thought things were getting better." Now, mind you, they live on the North Shore of Long Island. They haven't exactly seen, homeless people pushing shopping carts down Northern Boulevard. That doesn't happen. So they're a little bit, removed from it. And I said, I hate to tell you this, maybe in our neck of the woods, things are getting better, but in the rest of the country, you don't even know and want to know what's happening. And that would surprised me that they could be that isolated and that
well, it certainly doesn't surprise me that people think like that anywhere, because it's very hard to find the people like the people asking these questions who are even thinking about it. But the North Shore, Long Island, which is where I'm from, they have been supported the last few years by all the Wall Street bailouts. I mean, if they were not bailed out, Long Island would probably be one of the worst real estate markets in the country. And ultimately, that's what's going to happen, because when all this hits the fan, Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan are not going to still rule the roost and get all the money they want. And all those houses that are supported by Wall Street bonuses will go back down to proper value.
And that's exactly what I said. I said, the Northeast, New York City metropolitan area, we're the beneficiary of all of this debt and big government. Wall Street loves big debt, big government, and ever escalating amounts of debt, because even though the government's buying its own debt, it has to make it look like there's really a market for the debt. And therefore, all the Wall Street pawns come into play, because they pretend to buy it for customers and sell it and trade it, and it's really just all going to a big mattress in Washington, D.C., in the Fed, and that's what's going on. But it just felt like, man.
Well, look at the top three. I couldn't believe. I mean, it's not that I couldn't believe it, but when you think of what are the top three richest per capita counties in America, my initial thoughts would be outskirts of New York City, like you're talking about, North Shore, Long Island, New Rochelle, those kind of things.
No.
I think Beverly Hills, I think La Jolla, San Diego. But all three are suburbs of Washington, D.C. right now. Alexandria, Virginia, Silver Spring, Maryland, those kind of places. And if that doesn't tell you, what the state of this country is and where the money is going, I don't know what does.
That's for sure. And on that note, Andy, where do we find you again?
MilesFranklin.com.
All right. And if you need to find Andy or ask him a question, go to KerryLutz.com or send me an email, kl@KerryLutz.com. We'll do these shows every so often with questions that you send us, because these are the things you need to know. All right. Until next week, we'll catch you and have a productive week.
You too. Thanks, Kerry.